US sees India as crucial due to its power to contain China. Foreign policy expert Max Abrahms at Rising Bharat 2025 Rising Bharat Summit. India is in a very good position to accelerate the strong bilateral relationship with the US. The US and India are not going to let this tariff conversation derail their relationship and will find some kind of bilateral solution, says US Foreign. Read more at the Rising Bharat Summit 2025. U.S. foreign policy, counterterrorism, and international security expert Max Abrahms said that the United States sees India as crucial owing to its power to contain China. The United States-US is very close with India because of our shared principle. Because India is the largest democracy in the world, but also increasingly important because of its power, particularly from the U.S. strategic perspective, India is seen as critical in terms of power to contain China. This administration, although in a way is all over the place with Ukraine, Iran, Hamas, Houthis, but there is no issue geopolitically of more importance to this administration than the rise and potential threat of China. To that end, the relations with India are seen of paramount importance. We also see that in the Quad relationship, said the professor of political science at Northeastern University. The session was part of CNN News 18's Rising Bharat Summit 2025 in New Delhi on April 89, which will see over 75 power-packed sessions, with more than 100 visionary speakers, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah. Speaking about the US tariffs, he said, Israel's tariffs were raised more than Turkey. The difference between China and Taiwan is small, even though the US views China as an adversary and Taiwan as critical against China. You are right, the tariffs were not raised based on Washington's geopolitical love. The deficits are a big part of this. Part of it has to do with the US envisioning its role differently. There is also domestic politics. The mega movement. The American voters feel globalization hasn't been good to them. There are billionaires, but they are not accruing the financial benefits. Especially after the Joe Biden years when there was inflation, but their incomes didn't go up. The sentiment is globalization did not do good to everyday American. When asked what the US-India equation means in a post-China recalibration, Abrams said, it probably will have a good effect by showing that the US cannot be relied upon 100 as a pillar. This will induce American allies to become more autonomous, to diversify their economic relations. India is in a very good position to accelerate the strong bilateral relationship with the US. The US and India are not going to let this tariff conversation over the past couple of weeks derail their relationship and will find some kind of bilateral solution, which will put India and US on a stronger economic relationship, compared to the US's relationship with other allies. The best approach is for countries to say to the Trump administration that they understand and they want to work out a mutually beneficial relationship rather than a reciprocal punishment. Netanyahu's approach was that he is going to find a way to make moves, which will make both sides happy. That is the best approach. Trump places a lot of weight on personal relationships. If those can be fostered in a beneficial way, it can have financial implications for the rest of us, he said. So is it the end of globalization and multilateralism? This administration places less emphasis on international institutions and multilateralism. It tends to view relationships as transactional rather than ideological. Multilateralism will still be a factor to the extent that it is seen by Washington as expedient. But the administration is not paying much lip service to it. That is very different than the Biden administration, which viewed some of the institutions as sacrosanct, he said. On India's position on wars in Gaza and Ukraine, he said, India takes counterterrorism very seriously. It has a very good understanding the dangers of terrorism and combating. It is true that India remains even-handed on the Israel-Palestinian conflict. From the vantage of Jerusalem, New Delhi is seen as a reliable and strong partner because of their mutual understanding of terrorism. Modi reached out to Netanyahu after the 107 massacre. That bilateral relationship is very important. How does the West see multilateral groups? The US has been deeply influenced by realism, which looks at realpolitik. Today, the US is really concerned about China becoming a regional hegemon and challenging its primacy. The US economy, although big, is finite. These multilateral institutions like Quad are seeing important for the US to contain China, Abrams said. On BRICS, he said, I just happen to know more about the international security space and it is a greater priority to the Pentagon. When asked about India's positioning against its neighbors, he said, amid reports of Afghanistan's Bagram air base handed over to the US by Taliban, now they're returning, looks like the Taliban has invited the US. The airbase is important to deal with Iran and China. The US, post 9/11, may now be going back to Bagram, though it may be fighting with the IS, to fight Iran. It is of regional importance to India as well. On Trump's $1 trillion defense budget, he said, Trump has goals reducing deficit. He sees himself as an iconic figure in terms of US role around the world. There is no energy in reducing US expenditure on military. Washington is trying to reduce its budget, but doing so in a way it won't diminish its military. Abrams has held fellowships and other research positions with the Center for International Security and Cooperation at Stanford University, the Dickey Center for International Understanding at Dartmouth College, the Department of Political Science at Johns Hopkins University, the Center for Cyber and Homeland Security at George Washington University, the Moshe Dayan Center at Tel Aviv University, the Human Security Center in London, the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, Institute for Peace and Diplomacy, Center for the Study of Terrorism in Rome, the Observer Research Foundation in Delhi, the Belfer Center at Harvard University, and the Council on Foreign Relations. The American political scientist frequently appears for expert analysis in the media, e.g., Atlantic, BBC, CNN, Newsweek, New York Times, USA Today, Voice of America, Washington Post, and consults with government agencies about the contemporary extremism landscape. The NEWS 18 Rising Bharat Summit 2025 is where India's defining conversations take center stage. As the world acknowledges Bharat's emerging power, this summit will bring together the biggest Indian leaders, global policymakers, industry stalwarts, tech innovators, and startup revolutionaries to address the most urgent issues defining our future. With insightful dialogues on global supply chains, sustainable urban growth, and the next wave of innovation, the summit will drive crucial conversations on the journey of a self-reliant, future-ready Bharat on its path to global leadership by 2047. NAN